Seamilk, you know, as we sit here in the traffic in our cars, I see you up ahead there. You must be really hot. I really enjoy this aircon, I've got to be honest. I've been thinking about these kind of cars and project cars because I've worked on a few now in my lifetime, and I got some advice, and that is to anyone who's doing a project car of any kind. First of all, don't buy one that's not running, and second of all, don't ever put your car into a state where it doesn't run. Do you have some input into that before I explain why?
Yeah, actually, that's watching you have to deal with. Sometimes you can't drive your car because, you know, there's a huge job. Maybe it's like you're replacing the leaf springs or something. Like, it puts the car in a state where you're not going to drive it for a little while. That's one of the reasons I bought a Corvette that was more or less finished, and that's the one I'm driving today. It's a 74, and it's already pretty much done. It's like 85% there. So, yeah, I mean, that's my input. I wanted to have a car that I could just use straight off the bat, maybe make some improvements down the line, but once I take ownership, I want to drive it, right? So tell us some of your horror stories.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point. You have a car like this so you can enjoy it, and like, there's a lot that needs to be done to my car, some big jobs too. But I'm staying away from the ones that would like kind of mothball it, because if you do something big on the engine or something big on the suspension that can't be done in a weekend, then it's going to sit there during the week. You're not going to be able to drive it until the next weekend when you get to it again. And this stuff snowballs out of control because you find you don't have the time to do it, you lose motivation, and the car ends up sitting in your garage or wherever for 5 years, and it just degrades, and it gets to a point where there's so much more work you have to do to it that you actually just lose track and you just lose all your inspiration. So my point is, if you can drive it, even if it's a piece of crap, even if right now, I don't know, I didn't have side windows, or I don't know, the aircon didn't work, and like tons of things didn't work. If I was still driving it every day, I could still enjoy it and then slowly, incrementally fix bits and pieces, and then try it with those new fixes and enjoy it as I went along. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, like, I'm missing a radio right now. I also don't have any of the vents in for my blowers, but I can drive the car. I can turn it on and take this trip with you, and that's the point. So yeah, I mean, like, I see, if you go on Craigslist or something, you'll see so many cheap half-done or quarter-done projects because, like you said, if you take something apart and then you kind of either don't know how to put it back together or actually do the job, and you need to learn, and it's going to take you a while, and family's getting in the way, and you know, your wife's getting mad because you're working on your car all the time, eventually you put it aside and you never finish. So you lose so much money because maybe you bought that car, you know, for a pretty penny, and then took on all these parts, and you spent even more money on all these parts, but now you're going to give them to the next guy in a box because you don't have the motivation to do it, and you're going to lose a shit ton of money on that car.
Yeah, that's something quite common whenever you buy a second-hand car like this. The guy will be like, oh, I put the new shocks on it, or I put in a new water pump, and I've got like a new radiator and new bits of interior in a box that they give it to you with, like, your Corvette came with like a box of parts too, you know? It's just that this guy spent tons of money on these spare parts. He never got to enjoy them. He didn't get to enjoy the car.
No, that's the point, is that I feel like I got a bargain. I paid, what, 10 for this, and then the guy that did all this, what's it called, fiberglass work and all these upgrades and the dash and all this kind of shit. I mean, this guy probably, I'm just going to spitball here, maybe put in $30,000 or $40,000, and I ended up paying a quarter of that because he didn't want to finish it.
Yeah, it's back to the old thing, like how I had to spend so much time and money to build my C3, and it still never reached the same quality as yours as far as drivability is concerned. I mean, it's ran fine. I fixed the suspension. I fixed everything, but it was just still didn't reach that level, and I wore myself out on that car, and that's the reason why I just didn't want it anymore. I started to actually resent it because of all the work I had to do, and I couldn't enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense, and that's why, like, just never take on a project that, I mean, just be realistic with yourself. Maybe be super conservative in that, okay, I'm going to take on this massive project, but I might never get around to it. Maybe I should spend a little more money. We've talked about this before. Maybe you should spend a little more money on something that's more done so you can actually drive it. And then this car's from 78, it's 1974. There's always going to be stuff you can do to it to improve it anyway.
Exactly, 100%. And that's why, you know, this particular car, I mean, now we haven't really told the story, but I guess we'll make the video before we release this one. But I traded my C3 Corvette for this car. And I love this thing because it drives, it runs, it's got tons of issues. It is a piece of shit. It's like really not in great condition, but it was worth the swap. And I've been fixing it non-stop, feverishly every night, but I've been enjoying it. I drive it to work every day. It's awesome to drive. I'm really enjoying this road trip, you know. I love this car. It gets so much attention, and you know, I feel just so happy driving it, so it's worth it.
Yeah, but picture this. Imagine you tried to do something like an engine swap or something right now. Unless you have something else that you really love driving, you wouldn't be able to do this trip, and it might take you months. And that's exactly why you're doing incremental things instead.
Exactly, 100%. Like if I bought one that was cheap because it had a blown engine or something, you know, unless you've got a full-time, I don't know, like lift in your garage and you're a very mechanically inclined person, don't kid yourself. Everybody thinks that they're good at being able to, like, I don't know, work on cars, restore a car. Tons of people think, oh yeah, I'm going to retire and build this car, or, you know, I'm just going to restore this car in my spare time. Bullshit. It's not an easy job. You know, it does take a hell of a lot of dexterity, takes a lot of tools, takes a lot of know-how, and it's a lot of frustration. And a lot of people just don't have that amount of drive to push through to the end of a project, you know. That's why, like you said, you see so many on Craigslist which are half done, you know.
You also see these YouTube channels, though, where these guys will go rescue these, like, absolute piles of shit. But what you don't understand is a lot of these guys have the facility and the tools and the team to be able to pull that off. So that's why, like, we don't want to be like the spoiler of good news or whatever, but at the same time we want to be realistic and talk to you about what, you know, mistakes we've made in the past. Because at the end of the day, if you have a piece of shit that you don't have time to fix, then you're probably never going to fix it.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. And cars are complicated. There's so much you need to know about all the wiring and the plumbing and the electrics and all that stuff. And yeah, it's totally doable, and it's a fun process to learn. But if you're going to take on a massive project, make sure you have the resources to do it. Make sure that you're buying a 10 grand half-finished project car. Realize you're going to put another 20 to 40 into that car before you can enjoy it. Or just spend 20 or 30 in the beginning and buy one that's in good condition and then fix it up as you go along, you know?
Yeah, I think another dose of truth for everyone out there is, I mean, when we started this channel, we wanted to be like, okay, look, we're going to flip these cars for a profit. We've found how hard that actually is. So you can put in, I don't know, let's say 50 man hours for that Mercedes or something, and we had to donate it. We couldn't get any money for it, even though it was in better shape than when we bought it. It's insane how unprofitable these cars are. Not even project cars. Like I wouldn't even call that a project car. That was just like a shitty like grocery getter that cost $1,700 or whatever. But you got to put things into perspective. This Corvette that I'm driving, if it had a blown motor and you bought the shell for like $5 and then you put all the work into it and everything, you're, like you said, gonna put in way more money and time than you're gonna get from profit. You're not gonna get shit for profit.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Merc, for instance, if we just paid an extra $1,500 or another $2,000 maybe, we would have got one that's in good shape. That wouldn't have cost me so much time, effort, and money to try and fix, you know? So again, we're back to that whole thing. Don't get a project that's kind of shitty. Get something that you can drive. If you can drive, if it runs, then you're on easy street from then on, you know?
For sure. And also, if you get a car that's running properly, you can actually figure out like what you want to improve and all this kind of stuff. But if you buy a shell, you can't, that doesn't even make sense. Like you can't pick and choose what upgrades you want when we haven't even driven the car yet. It's just like a heap in your lawn, you know? Another
thing is, don't impulse buy. I know it's hard, and I do it all the time, but be a little bit more picky when you do buy your car, your project car, and give it a proper look over. Don't just buy it because it's a car you always wanted. Because like, I've done that every single time and I've always come up short. And if it wasn't for the fact that I know mechanics well, I would have been screwed. Even with this car, I mean, remember when I bought it, it had holes in the gas tank and stuff, you know? Yeah, like this car you're driving it's one you could drive away, and you did drive it away, but for the average person, that might not have been a good purchase. No, I mean, the shocks are loose on the thing. It's got these ridiculous aftermarket T-tops, which are impossible to seal. I had to make my own seals, all sorts of crap, you know? It'd be a never-ending frustration for someone who didn't know what they were doing. Well, for those people who don't know where we are currently on Highway 1, which is like the Pacific Coast Highway, and it's one of the most beautiful roads in the world. And we're kind of at the beginning of it, so we're doubling back. We drove down from Long Beach on the highway, and now we're going back up the Pacific Coast Highway because we're going to turn around and go down it because we want to experience it both ways.
It's also one of the most famous roads in the entire world. You guys, most people probably recognize it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no point in driving on the Pacific Coast Highway in like a Toyota Camry or something, you know. You got to do it in the right kind of car, and you're starting to see the cars come out of the woodworks. Like there's your favorite kind of Porsches right there. Cool, man. So I guess that's it. Is there anything you want to add before we finish?
Hey, you got a thumbs up from a Porsche.
That's nice, dude. Add it to your tally.
I wish I had a Porsche. Anyway, whether you like baking in traffic or not, it doesn't matter because this place is absolutely gorgeous and it's going to be really fun to ride up and down. I hope you guys enjoyed our little trip. This actual video topic came from patrons on patreon.com/worthlesswhips. A lot of people asked us to do topics, two topics actually. One was about like advice about when you go to buy a used or old car, and then the second topic was why, you know, should I take on a massive project where I need to like do a ton of jobs to it and stuff because it's a cheap shell. And I think we answered that question. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think what we'll do for our next video is we're going to talk about, you know, the things you should really look for when buying a second-hand car if you're looking for a worthless whip. But yeah, we've definitely answered the second question.
All right, cool. It looks like the road's going to open up here, so send us off. Enjoy your day. I don't know what the hell to say anymore.
Absolutely, and you know, look, we're currently in the most ideal situation. We know everybody's down because of Corona. Apparently not these people who are just chilling around without masks, but you know, it doesn't stop you from enjoying life. I know life is serious for everyone right now, but if you have the opportunity, go out and do something cool, you know, and if not, just come along for this ride because, guys, we want to share this with you. This is quite the experience driving down the Pacific Coast Highway in classic 70s muscle cars. Well, I guess pony car / sports car, whatever you want to call them. But we're just having fun, and we hope you're having fun too. So until then, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome.
Again.